Good morning, everyone out there. Good, happy day after Christmas. Hope everyone's Christmas was a great one and a fun one. You got to spend some time with family. I got to do some of that. So we're back. It's Saturday morning for Hobby Hotline. Pretty good panel today, if I may be so bold. With me today, we've got Drew Herndon from Let Me Get That Potograph.
What's up, buddy?
How are you? Good morning.
Doing good.
It's right on your screen. Jeremy Lee from Sports Cards Live. Morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Drew.
What's going on, guys? Hey, what's going on, James? Yes, there is a live show. Merry Christmas, Brad. What's up? We actually already have a caller. So we'll pull Chris in just a minute because I know what he wants to talk about, and it was one of our topics anyway. So, Brody, what's up, buddy? Hope you had a good Christmas, my man. Excellent content through the week. Can't wait to be on the show soon. But welcome, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Let's see. YouTube feed is on. I believe, everyone.
Yeah, I see the comments coming in from YouTube.
Okay.
So
all right, yeah, StreamYard's having a couple of problems, but and Chris did just pop out. So I guess we'll let him call back in whenever he would like to. But what's going on, everybody? Hope you guys had a good Christmas, first of all. John, Jeremy, how was the holidays?
Very nice. Very nice. You know, there's not much to do, right? We're hanging out at home. Fortunate to have my folks with us for the last few weeks. So it keeps my kids busy. But yeah, it's been relaxed. It's been a relaxing, not too much activity sort of holiday season. I imagine it's been the same for many.
Yeah, absolutely. It was for me. I mean, I know our grandparents and stuff weren't able to come. You know, it's a lot different year this year than most. But it's the end of the year, John, Jeremy, you know, and the end of a wild year. But it's also the end of something, one of the biggest things of the year, and that's Project 2020. The thing that kind of took pre-COVID by storm, you could say. Chris seems to be having some trouble. Chris, call in whenever you can, man. What's up, Alan? But Project 2020 winding down. Really, you know, before COVID and everything, that really was the thing, you know. I mean, it really took everybody by storm. Hey, Rich, how's it going? But with the end of Project 2020, and I'll actually pull up the last two cards. For the last two cards, they went with Mike Trout, and the Mike Trout card. So he ended up having a couple more than the rest of the guys. These are the last two cards of Project 2020 right there. But I guess we'll just start off just talking about this for a little bit. But with Project 2020 winding down, what did you guys think of the project? And I mean, do you think overall, like, it was a success? And, you know, what do you think we'll see in the future?
Who's first?
well, I can go, and I'll keep it brief, Jeremy. You know, I interviewed half of the 20 artists, and I think the big thing, I mean, first off, the project was a hit. Regardless of what happened, kind of coming towards the finish line, if you will, it was a huge hit. But let's be honest too, and in talking to the artists, they said this themselves. You know, the timing and what they didn't do this on purpose, Tops, but the timing with the pandemic was sort of like the perfect storm, the perfect recipe. I don't know if this project does as well under normal circumstances. Matter of fact, some of the pre-project buzz was, you know, oh, Tops is, you know, overkilling it. They're just redoing the same. It sort of had a negative buzz, and then obviously we know the project was a huge success, and I think the pandemic, and I don't want to give the pandemic all the credit here for the project's success, but I think it was a significant factor. And you know, I love the project. I have some of the cards. You know, I think my complaint, if many are echoing it too, it's just it went on a long time. You know, and I understand why. You got 400 cards, 2 a day. It got a little bit overkill, if you will, and I think it hurt it coming down the finish line, if you will. And, the Keith Shore, Griffey, the 99K. And ever since then, it's sort of kind of came, which is a good thing. I mean, if you're thinking on the value end, it's probably a good thing that it came down to lower numbers. But, it seemed to drag on a long time. I hope if they do it another time, maybe they do a half-year thing or a quarterly thing, where it's not the whole year, if you will. But great success. I'm sure it exceeded any of Topps numbers and forecasts in any of their meetings. I'm sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, John. I don't think it's the same thing in the absence of the pandemic. And I think the reason I say that is because it was, what was it, like May or so when the project exploded and all those early card values were pumping into the thousands, especially the Ermsey Trout and all the other kind of the stragglers from there were really, $300, $600, $700. And that was kind of partially riding the wave of what else was going on in the hobby. I believe in terms of card values, it's like everything seems to be kind of ripe for going up in value. And perhaps that kind of rode the wave of what else was going on in the hobby. And then people realized that 2000 is not a small print run. Never mind all the 10s and 12s and 20s, 30s, 40,000s, and of course, never mind the Keith Shore Griffey that you just alluded to at 99,000 copies. People realize that, wait a second, and myself included, I was buying a couple of these combo packs in those months when it was so exciting because the cards looked cool and you saw values going up. And then myself, like many others, just kind of stopped, realized, okay, wait a second, this isn't 2000 and 2000 would have been a minuscule print run in July, August, September, very small. I think people like myself and others realize, wait a second, that's a very big print run still. So maybe not for me. But as for it being 400 cards and dragging on, the thing is that they never said it wasn't going to be 400 cards dragging on. It was set out that way very deliberately, and sure, it dragged on. But I mean, people should have realized that from the get-go that this was 20 cards, 20 artists, 400 cards. I thought the cards were beautiful, though. Yeah. Overall, many of them were awesome. So
no, I agree, and I think it definitely was a success. And guys, please call in, let us know what you think, and if you have anything you'd like to talk about the show. We today's topics basically going to be recapping 2020 and looking forward to 2021. So any questions, comments you guys have about anything throughout the year or the last week that you'd like, please call in and join the show. But guys, I agree with you. I think it has to be considered a success. I mean, when I was speaking to one of the artists, they're making multiple documentaries on this. One of them's going to be on Netflix. It's already been signed up to be on Netflix. And I think I think Project 2020 is gonna, in the long run, especially at least into next year, I think it's gonna have an effect on more than just whatever they want to call Project 2021, if they're going to call it that or whatever it is, because I think that kind of ushered in the collaboration era. The Ben Baller products, all these the Aoki collections, all this type of stuff. I think sure, Topps throws it around in the boardroom, but I think Project 2020 was that one where they said, okay, wait, there's a market for this. There is a big market, and we can truly profit off of these types of collections. And so I think that's really going to be probably Project 2020's legacy, is that it ushered in, that collaboration, if you will, era. We do have a caller. Bring him in now. James, how's it going, bud?
Good, gentlemen. How are you? Happy Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year.
All that stuff. That right back at you, bud.
So here's my take on Project 2020. I think I've mentioned this when I've been on before. I'm in a Facebook group, and we're in Canada, and I run group buys to help people cut down on shipping, get a better per price cost, because as you all know, when you buy in quantity with Topps, you get a better price. So I've been in at it from the start. When it hit March and right through the end, like the Trout cards, I ordered 30 of each. I think it was obviously a resounding success. There's Topps did not expect that response, without a doubt, right? They ran out of one-touch cases. They were buying all these different types of one-touch
Different
cases,
size, one-touch
different
cases.
sizes. Yeah, well, I don't know if you, just as an aside, if you follow FDOT, he had a case built for his cards, and one of the problems that he mentioned was, yeah, if you get any of my cards in the smaller cases, they're not going to fit.
Right.
You're going to have to peel off the sticker and put it into a case that's going to fit. But there were things that happened I wish they had done from the start, right? Or they had decided on from the start. The Trout autos. Like halfway through, they decided, oh, we're going to start introducing Trout autographs, which I don't even know if they exist. We've seen a couple, but we haven't seen the other ones, right? They introduced foil cards 3/4 of the way through the set, and those have gone for crazy prices, right? Like I think the Thomas, I can't remember which one. One of the original ones started to go for like $300-400 for the foil cards, and then the last two cards they introduced chase cards, which were different artist cards. Great ideas. Obviously, they did it to pull people in for those last cards because they saw the print run starting to go down. Yeah. But I wish that was something that they had done way, way, way back when. Yeah, so those were the original cards. But if you look at the site, you'll see the chase cards, right? Yeah. I just wish they had stayed consistent with the entire set.
So Brad, so James, do you mean that you wish that, because two things. So when you say you wish they would have done that from the beginning, I think to myself, they probably sort of thought outside the box as time went on and came up with these ideas fresh. So they couldn't have done it from the beginning. It wasn't the natural progression.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. But are you saying that you wish that they didn't do that and just remained consistent till the end? Or are you kind of glad that they did it even though they weren't able to implement it right from the beginning?
That's a good question.
While you're thinking about that, I'll say one more thing. What I'm most interested in learning about Project 2020 as people debrief it and break it down is who was the customer? Was it the card collector or was it the fan of the artist?
Right.
I was saying at the beginning, this is going to be great. We're going to bring in a whole bunch of new people to the hobby, or Topps is going to usher in a whole bunch of new people to the hobby because it's exposed it to the fans of these artists that each have 100,000 or more followers in their socials. I wonder if that happened. Did we bring in, or were those 99 Shore Griffies, were 98,000 of those card collectors who were just looking to hoard them to sell them later?
So here's my answer for both questions. Sorry, John.
Go ahead.
I regardless of which way they went, Jeremy, I wish they stayed consistent, right? They just did the cards, no chase cards, no autos, or they did it from the start, but just stay consistent through the entire set. Because I look at someone that, let's say, is wanting to collect the entire set, including autos, including parallels, including foils, etc. Like, just stay consistent, right?
Yeah.
The second question you asked, early on, when the print run started to spike, those were the sneaker guys. Those were the flippers, right? They saw the popularity. They decided, hey, I don't have any shoes to buy, right? And we've seen that throughout the card market, not just Project 2020. It was the shoe guys that came in, bought them up, flipped them, trying to make a quick dollar. Yeah. It did bring in new fans of the artists, right? And you hear the artists talk about that, right? Oh yeah, I've got all these people that usually buy my art. Now they're able to buy my art in a smaller format at a reasonable price.
Yeah. And I, echoing what James said, I also didn't like some of the change ups, in the middle of the project. I know Jeremy is right on, there's nothing they could do. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it and they have to do it. I think, people in the card hobby are pretty smart. They put 2 and 2 together. They saw it for what James alluded to, what it is. If the print runs were going down and Top said, hey, let's try to get some some enthusiasm back into this project, and so they did those things. While many of them were great, but like James, I sort of felt like that too. It was sort of, I like to be true to what the original intent was, and even the artists themselves, I had them on the show. They started their own like kind of side projects. I think some, people think, and I do know some of the terms. I'm not going to mention them all for being told in confidence what they kind of made on this project. It is not. I'm not crying poverty for the 20 artists, but they did fairly well because of
they did okay.
The amounts they sold.
Yeah.
But they probably didn't do as well as many others maybe penciled in for. So once that the project got popularity, they said, hey, let me paint some other subjects and do some side projects and generate some side income. A lot of people didn't like that. They thought it was overkill. My take on that was, hey, they're artists. It's what they do. If you don't like it, don't buy it. If everyone don't like it, they're going to have a lot of stuff they did without buyers, right? But go ahead, James.
Most of those artists, they were, I would say, a few of them have been fairly successful artists, right? Blake Jameson,
Mm-hmm.
like he's probably the prime example. He's got a large list of, A-list sports stars, right? You look at Ben Baller, the guys. That money is probably chump change for him, right? Like the guy does amazing business with his jewelry and such. But you look at some other artists like F. Dot, and I was a big fan of his from the start. He was probably doing fairly well before Project 2020, but you look at him now, and he's like it's exploded, and he's openly admitted that it's been a big bonus for him, and the money that he's bringing in from it has really helped his own art.
Yeah, so he's a muralist.
Who's it been better for, the artists or the hobby? That's what I want to know. And I'm happy for it being both or just the artists. It doesn't really matter. I'm just curious. Did the artists get more sports fans becoming art fans, or did the hobby get more art fans becoming hobbyists? That's just curious how effective it was at bringing more at growing our hobby.
It's funny, Jeremy, you mentioned, did we bring in some people from the art world into the hobby world? I'm sure there's a few, maybe not as much as we initially anticipated, but I think what you did see, and you're going to see even going forward, you see these artists now, they're in the hobby now. They got Discord accounts.
Yeah.
Tyson Beck he just finished his first series of basketball cards that he did on his own outside, obviously, of Topps. Topps doesn't have basketball. So you've seen these artists brought in now. Whether we got art fans, I don't know how many, probably not as many as we think. We got the artists now to be in the hobby. I think that's the one thing we see. I don't know if we would have without the project, and I don't know whether you like that or not. That's what's happened, and I see that trend continue. We think about the Topps 2020 project. There are other artists in sports cards, from Topps Within the Game, Paul Jennings, and the art cards in Star Wars and other products. There are sports artists. Yep. And so I think
Mayumi Soto, who does
living set.
So you're going to see more of those, I think, try to go mainstream. If you're one of those other artists, you see what the 2020 guys are doing, their own side projects. You say, hey, I can do that too. Let me wet my beak, so to speak. And
I was going to say, how many of them are now doing additional projects with Topps, right? You saw like Gregory Siff do the 3 World Series cards, Mr. Cartoon do a World Series card, F. Dot did the skating series. It sounds like he's going to probably do additional ones. I understand Blake Jameson's got some projects on the go. Yep. Tyson Beck continues to do work with them, right? Well, Ben Ball, like almost every single one, at least half of them have had additional projects or are in the process of doing more projects with Topps.
Having them in the hobby, I think, is going to be, we may not have seen the hobby growth right away by virtue of having these guys involved. But as time goes on and they continue to be involved in the hobby and their followers, their fans see them being a part of the hobby, there could be some natural growth that way for the hobby.
Yeah, and the market is going to set everything. If these artists market their wares and their buyers for them, that they'll be there. If they're, I know it's cliche, but if people don't like it or they view it as overkill or the price is too high, they won't buy it, and the artist will know, like, I can do this, or I need to lower my prices, or where they got to be at. It's definitely going to be an oversaturation of the art in the hobby. Now, whether, how receptive we are, as a hobby to it, we're going to find out.
So here's a question, and you actually, your comment raised a good question, John. Now that we're done, do you think the price point was right? Do you think it was too high? Do you think it was too low?
I think I would have liked to see it a little bit lower than $20 a card, maybe $12. I mean, the cases not being all the same were a bad look when you're charging $20 a card. I know it technically wasn't their fault. I don't think they anticipated that sort of volume. There was the plastic shortage with the pandemic. So I'll give Topps sort of a pass. Sure. Some of the other stuff, though, is on Topps. Some of the cards were coming in with extra bodily features, hairs, and who knows what else. And some of the cards reportedly, because of the cases, they're moving around, getting dinged up. I mean, that is sort of on Topps. I get
maybe that was their way of testing parallels beforehand. Who knows?
Yeah. 10 or $12. If I'm sure they had discussions to their price point. I think they probably would have sold, some of those lower print runs out of 1,000 or 2,000 might have been higher at a $10 or $12 price for it. But maybe Topps didn't want a 5,000, on everything. I think they sort of liked some low and some high. They knew the Trouts were probably going to sell more than any other player, just based on current market conditions. And so $20, it's probably why I didn't buy. I mean, I bought most of the Jackies. I bought certain other ones that I just liked the way they looked. I didn't, I wasn't doing the set. It was just eye appeal to me. If they were 10 or $12, why did I bought them? We saw what the price point did, guys, right? What did people do? Instead of buying them direct from Topps, what did they do? They went to eBay and bought them from the mass sellers for $14 to $16. So
that could have been the case. Yeah, that could have been the case at any price point. I think the price point was kind of perfect, actually, because $20 is cheap. Buy two, you buy the pair of $17.50. And now we look at what they're selling for on the secondary market. It's sort of right in line with what happens with general wax. How you buy a box for $100 and what you get out of it might only be $25 to $50, most of the time. Same thing here. You buy it for $20. Now you got a card on the secondary market worth $5 to $10 to $15, especially if it's one of the higher print run cards. So kind of in line.
Well, you think about the actual cost for Topps to produce it, right? So outside of the printing and the card stock, they had to pay for each artist, and how much, John. I don't know, but you got to think about the cost of those cases. As a collector, it costs us what, $3 to $4 just to buy one of those cases, right? So
it couldn't have been much cheaper than $20 a card, $17.50, or I think $15 if you bought 10, right?
Yeah. Here's a thought. What if Topps instead, they did it where it was $20 a card. If you bought 5 cards, it was $16. Maybe Topps would have been almost better off saying, listen, it's $20 a card. If you want 5, it's $100. I think you would have saw less. I don't know if they wanted that secondary market action where it was lower than what they were offering on their site. So if they've learned anything, they may not offer like a quantity discount in future things like this. They might just say, listen, it's $18 a card. Buy 100, buy one. It's $18 a card. And,
well, Chris Harris makes a good comment. Yeah, that one there. Like that's a very astute comment, right? Like that air of premium at $20, $10, $12. you're gonna repel a whole bunch of people at $10 or $12 who feel it's too cheap for them. Which
although it does kind of fall in line with Topps' online price point for their online offerings, right? Like Topps now, there you buy one card, it's $10, right? Yeah, you obviously get the discount when you buy in bulk, but $10 for a 35-point card, that's about right for Topps now. But let's face it, Topps isn't pricing them based on what it's going to do on the secondary market, right? They're pricing it on their cost and whatever their margin is for that.
They are, James, but and I think Jeremy and Drew might agree. They do follow what happens. I believe
very much.
Topps,
absolutely.
Panini, all those companies care because that in turn leads them to say, how's this product doing long term, and what do we do next time? So they do care.
Yeah. And well, I was going to say that's a fair point, John, because if you look at Topps now autos, like when they drop, let's say some of the subjects that they don't usually have in their packed out products, I usually compare what the price point is for when they drop them to what the eBay going rate for that particular player is, and it's about right. They usually price them fairly well for autos, so that's a good point. Yeah.
And another people following on the secondary market was the artists themselves. Some of the stuff you didn't hear on my show because I was asked not to, put it in there, was the artists knew, especially the early runs of the 2000 and under print run, that were bringing $500-600. Now again, Topps wasn't getting that, but the artists took notice that, hey, something I did is bringing $500-600 a piece, and it's not even the original work. It's my original work put onto a smaller canvas and just printed. And so they knew early on. The artists knew, like, hey, even when this is done, I think I want to be in this hobby.
Yeah. Well, look at what happened when when the artists decided to do their own autographed versions of those cards. Some of them. They didn't buy enough of them for themselves. They had to go to the secondary market to buy up their earlier ones to get autographed.
Yeah, and one thing I will disclose, because it's not really a secret, it's kind of came out. People, I may say this, and people may hear and say, "I know that, John," but some may not. The artists were allowed to buy their own card at release, not after the fact, at $8 per.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the artist wanted 100 of their cards, they paid $800 and they got 100 of their cards. Many of the artists, not thinking about the signing them themselves, like James just alluded to, didn't buy enough, and they had to go. Sophia Chang is on my show talking about, I had to pay $100 for my own card on the secondary market to sign, and not even make much money, after resale, but just to have it, and so there's all sorts of gears in play with it, and those print runs are the artists buying cards too. So keep that in mind. You know what I mean? Right. So, and the rumor was, and I don't know if it's true. He almost came on, but he didn't come on. There's a rumor that Ben Baller was buying $1,000 of every one of his releases. So if you factor that in, you can minus 1,000 off his print runs that are not, probably unmarked, if you will. He probably signed them, did something, and gave them away.
Yeah, well, I do love the secondary market stuff they did. I thought it was a great way to do. A lot of the artists really went outside the box and used their creativity to do some really cool stuff with the cards beyond just the release, and I thought that was great. But James, thanks so much for the call, man, and hope you have a safe and happy New Year. Had a good Christmas, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
Happy New Year.
Yep. Happy New Year, James.
All right. Well, so I think overall you got to have Project 2020 as a success. I mean, it definitely was. But Jeremy, we were talking a little bit before the show, and this kind of segues perfectly into something that you had actually saw and brought up to me. Take it away.
Sure. Yeah. So a nice little segue there, Drew, because we're talking about growing the hobby in 2020 via Project 2020. But there's this new thing that I just discovered yesterday. happening that I think might have influence on growing the hobby in 2021. I'm not sure exactly what these guys are up to, but it seems to be a new account on Twitter and newish account on Twitter and Instagram called Hobby Connectors. And the reason why I bring it up is because they put out a picture yesterday on Instagram of Tim Duncan holding two of his 1997 PMG green and PMG red. So, you know, I believe those are rookie cards for Tim Duncan. So I think you're looking at like $100,000 worth of cards in his hand right there, maybe at least at this point. And there's a comment that comes with with the post. I'm looking at it on my other screen, Drew, and it basically says, you know, our team is wanting to share right off the bat what we are planning to bring you guys regularly. They say they're planning to bring together the biggest collectors in the world and their collections with the biggest athletes and celebrities. They look forward to telling these stories and discussing the booming hobby market. And then they go on to say that the meeting between the Tim Duncan and the cards was made possible by two of the biggest Tim Duncan collectors and the legend Tim Duncan himself. So the point being that now we have a picture of Tim Duncan holding very valuable cards, making its way to social media. And I was talking to someone else last night saying, hey, do you kind of know what these guys are up to? Because I couldn't really tell what their mission is from the one post. And he said he thinks that their plan is to get celebrities and athletes themselves talking about sports cards. And I don't know how they're going to do it. But if they are successful, I can see that being a very unique sort of tool and method in which to grow the hobby. Because if these athletes are on their socials holding cards, talking about cards, that's going to, I believe, make more people aware of it, look into it, and then, you know, grow the hobby. So what are your guys' thoughts?
I think you're dead on that this is, I'm interested to see what the guys, I actually do know one of the people behind this account. I'm going to reach out to them and find out more about this because I was unaware of it until you told me about this actual account. But I think 100%, like this is where you're going to see if one thing I can think is going to happen in 2021, it's going to be factors outside of sports influencing values and having athletes and people like that coming into the card world, celebrities coming into the card world a lot more than just maybe pulling a card. Vintage Breaks, for example, had on Holly Saunders, who was one of the top golfers at one time and now does a lot of stuff on Fox Sports and stuff like that. And she came on and talked, and next day it's on TMZ. Like, I mean, that type of stuff, it's really blowing up nowadays. Like, I think this is something that you're really going to see is a lot of these people. We all know about Aoki now having his whole Aoki's Playhouse, and now he's having multiple releases coming down. I mean, I really think next year is going to be the year where you start to see a lot of these guys doing a lot more than just, hey, here's some cards, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I think you're going to see them like really get involved. I mean, you have Durant's group who just purchased into Star Stock. I mean, they're already getting involved on the back end where you might not even see it, but they're getting involved into it. So I think you're going to see it on both sides, on the ownership side where it's very quiet. And then I think you're going to see a lot of these players and a lot of these guys, especially some of them that maybe don't have the million endorsements, maybe don't have the tens of millions in extra income that some of these other guys do, easily doing this stuff, because there's going to be, whether it be breakers, podcasters, or whatever it may be, a lot of people that would want these appearances and these people, you know, and these athletes with their cards.
Yeah.
Like you saw cards, they've always sort of been, but this year especially, guys, you've seen sports cards become a bona fide asset class. You know, you're seeing CNBC and financial shows talk about it like never before. And so with that, these celebrities and whether they're athletes or just actors, actresses, extreme sports celebrities that have millions of dollars, they hear now, they're seeing, hey, there's another asset class I can get involved with. That's what you're seeing. Now, as far as this hobby connector site, Drew, you said you know them. I know nothing of them. Are they just, you know, posting pictures and screenshotting them? I mean, to get clout? Are they involved?
That's where That's what I'm gonna find out, because now that's what I'm gonna find out, because the way, like, Jeremy read their initial post, so far it's only one post and it is a little vague on what exactly it is, whether it's going to be something like that, showing examples. But this looks to be, I mean, it's got masks on, so it's obviously been done since the COVID stuff started. This looks to be like a set up meet and greet. Like, I mean, and I don't know if there could be a video behind this. Maybe they're doing videos. Maybe they have some I mean, the person I do know that's one of the people behind this does have access to sports stars. So it is possible that they could have videos and stuff behind this. I don't want to reveal their name, since, without asking them first, obviously, unless I get a text and they're watching the show. But, I don't know exactly what the purpose is going to be, but if it ultimately is to get athletes involved and athletes' hands on cards, except for Giannis's, keep his hands far away from the cards, then I think we're good.
It's a nice tease into guys like us speculating, especially at the end of 2020, speculating into what 2021 is going to hold for the hobby, because it allows us to kind of broaden our imaginations, at least mine, because I think that, again, if these athletes are going to be playing with cards on their social media in whatever way, it's going to be kind of an inroad into the hobby going mainstream to the point, because the hobby's going mainstream, but it's not
majorly.
It's not quite there yet. But to me, what mainstream means, and I think this is important to define, because this is how I see it, and I wonder what you guys think and everybody else. But the way I think of mainstream is that I can see us in a place where everybody who is a sports fan that has some extra money collects cards to some degree.
Like a jersey. Like they would buy a jersey.
Exactly. Like they would buy a jersey or a hat. I can see it being where, especially, as the pandemic stretches on and we're still, you have more discretionary income. I can just see it being where everybody collects cards. Like if you're a sports fan, if you're a fantasy guy, if you're a sports gambler, you have a card collection. And that is why, that comes back to the whole thing we talked about. I don't know whether it was last week or before, like is our 15,000 PSA 10s, is that a monstrous population, like a Luka card, for example, or is it really minuscule in the whole scheme of things? That's another discussion. Yeah. But as for growing the hobby, I think this is if these guys are doing what I think they might be doing based on this one post, and I hope it is, I think it could be really great for the hobby. John's comment earlier about the asset class and cards became an asset class, and there's some comments. There's some comments in the comments about the private equity funds and the fractionals are buying the cards and all this sort of thing. Yeah, that's obvious, and I agree with that. But what I think this could lead to is more of the everyday person growing that segment, because it seems like we have the highest end of the segment being catered to very well.
Yes,
being sort of handheld through as they come into the hobby. That's all being taken care of. But it's the lower level. We need the lower level to really grow out, like what Project 2020 could have done, but had a hand in doing. I think that getting athletes out there talking about it, it's going to help the foundation of the hobby, help support the cards being an asset class at the really high end, help us go mainstream. And I think it's an exciting thing to think about as we move forward. And to me, this is just brand new as of yesterday. Thought going to be going into 2021.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think, at least. Did we lose him yet? Jeremy may have a little technical issue real quick, but I want. Oh, what's it?
Public?
All right. So I don't know if he's back. No. All right. The one thing I wanted to say too, and I don't mean this any disrespect to the Hobby Connector. I don't know him. I don't know the account. Yeah. But if Tim Duncan or Steve, they have to do it on their own accounts.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Hobby Connector is if they're a middleman, they're a middleman. Steve Aoki's doing all his card stuff on his accounts, on his social medias. If Tim
Right.
Duncan goes on his social medias, then
And
it's a
does
big
it,
deal.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
saw
no,
we saw Giannis, what he did on his social media. So
yeah.
you know,
No, I
Hobby
agree.
Connector account, it is what it is, but until the athletes themselves endorse it with
No,
their
I
name
think-
behind it.
I think,
you know,
like you said, John, the Hobby Connector account itself, that who knows what that is. It could just be some regular Instagram account, but I do think it raises, like Jeremy mentioned, a really interesting point of the athletes getting involved. If it's truly going to be, are we going to start to get athletes? And like you said, even if it doesn't come from Hobby Connectors, if it comes from, like you said, the athletes themselves, people like that. And I think that's really where this is going in 2021. And Jeremy mentioned the word mainstream a lot. And that's really where I see this hobby going, honestly, is in terms of both on the online aspect. I think you can get a lot of people very interested with companies like StarStock, lots of these different types of options. There's millions of ways to collect now, whether it be physical, digital, whatever it may be, however you like. I liken this as kind of the beginning of fantasy football. Like when fantasy football was taking off and it first hit its stride. I think if the card companies do the right things and the collectors keep up doing what they are, and we continue having these, rookie classes and these players that continue to get better and better, I could see this, easily going mainstream. And I think 2021 is going to be a very big step forward for that. And guys, please call in and join the show if you have any questions or anything you'd like to comment about 2021 or about 2020 or coming up in 2021. What do you think the hobby landscape's going to look like, or what was your favorite event, or what was your most memorable event from 2020? Because let's be honest, we talked about it before. There was a million things every single week going on this year, it felt like. So, I mean, please call in and let us know, what some of your biggest stuff was. But, Jeremy, we lost you there for a minute, man. Finish up what you were saying, bud.
Yeah, no, sorry, I don't know what happened. And I
No
don't remember, not exactly sure what I was talking about, but it was just the whole mainstream thing. I'm looking at a comment that the card hobbyist puts in. He says cards are mainstream when I get a card for a fill up at Citgo. And, it kind of makes me think to myself, is that, I hear what he's saying. Back in the day, you could get cards everywhere in the early 90s, mid 90s. But is that do we want that? Or is there a different mainstream where it's like everybody, it's like, I don't know, sports cars, the vehicles, they are mainstream, but, not every, you have to go somewhere special to get them. And not a great analogy, but it's in terms of sports cards, I think they can still be mainstream without being available at every corner gas station. If it gets to the corner gas station point, which that might be where we get closer to what happened in the 90s. I'd almost rather it remain not that easy to get, or, something where, we have the retail program, there's the hobby stores, and then there's the online. But I'd be a little scared if it was getting to the point where it was in every little mom and pop shop was carrying, an array of sports cards. Although maybe it'd be a great thing. Tough to say.
Yeah, I remember those days. Well, we still got, you got Tim Hortons doing cards. I wish our American Tim Hortons did the hockey cards so I could get some of those and whatnot. But yeah, I kind of echo what Jeremy said. You also want to be careful of overkill, and just as fast as the hobby's getting a lot of good vibes and good news reports, if it's too much, we're going to be talking about the opposite spectrum of that. And
sorry, John.
Yeah, no, go ahead. That was pretty
well, sort of changing the topic just a little bit, because I see a comment by Cardboard Max, and I really want to talk about it because I think it sparked something in my mind. He said it's the comment, Drew, where he goes, 2020 to me was the rise of modern basketball Zion mania. And what I'm sort of where my mind is going with that is that what happened in 2020 for me was that modern cards, like the best modern cards of certain rookies, are now at the same price points as the best the highest grade rookie cards of all-time Hall of Famers. And to me, that's what happened. It's like all of a sudden, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Zion to a degree, Luka. These guys, their cards are selling at par with Mickey Mantles and Wilt Chamberlains and Lou Alcindors and all these guys who are retired. It's like the hobby has all of a sudden said, it doesn't matter when you played. If you're good, your cards are going to almost be at that same, within the same value. A Mike Trout sells for more than a Honus Wagner. The guy's still playing. We never would have seen that before 2020. That didn't happen. That to me is a big deal in 2020. I thank Cardboard Max for making the point, because it's it's bigger than I think Cardboard Max is even thinking.
Yeah,
he's more right than I think he knows he is.
Yeah, and you're right, Jeremy. We see that this year, and Dr. Beckett said on this program and his own, one of the reasons is, I believe, and I agree with him, and this is his thought, is because we are seeing these guys now where many of us, and I'm older, so I did get to see a little bit, but some other younger folks didn't see Mantle and early Kareem or Wilt Chamberlain or Bob Cousy and those guys play, and so they only know what they know, and they say, hey, Mike Trout's on pace to be the best baseball player in the history of the game. I'm going to start buying them up. Prices go up. We also saw this year, which I think is going to be the first thing to kind of go back down, is the second-year cards blow up of certain guys. LeBron James and Luka's even, and LeBron James' first Laker card in his 18th year in the league, bringing crazy prices, and I've heard it termed his Lakers rookie card, his 18th year card, and so we've seen 2020's just been, I don't care how long you've been in the hobby, 30 years, 2 years, 2020 is arguably the craziest and greatest year the hobby's ever seen.
Which might not be a great thing for people who just got in, because now their expectation is that this is normal. Whereas, as far as second-year cards go, John, you'll remember, you guys will remember back in the 80s, 90s, second-year cards were a thing. I remember like second-year Gretzky from a hockey, second-year Mario Lemieux. People wanted second years back in the day. I think second-year cards are a wonderful thing, especially if they're, especially on the vintage side of things. I don't understand it as much in modern yet, but I understand it. The first Lakers card, to me, that is a thing. That is a significant. And back in the day, that was something that people cared about. Last cards back in the day. Now a last card is a 20th year card. Nobody really cares. But it's kind of nice to see that. It's nice to see people caring about cards other than rookie year.
Yes, and I think John, I think you're right to an extent. I think some second year cards, maybe like Trae Young optics from last year, might not be worth what they were going for, which was close to $100. I think raw, but players like a LeBron James, people like that whose rookies are so expensive, I don't think that you're going to see those second-year cards go away, because they don't have a lot of rookies, because they weren't from these last couple of years, and they can't afford the $100,000 ones. So those second-year ones I could see. Now the Trays, maybe like people from this coming up class, Zion second years, maybe Jaws, they might have an instant appeal, but I don't see them holding a lasting appeal.
Yeah. And I don't mean that I think it's terrible. I think it's good. I just don't know. Jeremy makes a great point. Like for vintage second-year cards of those players where they're harder to get, the values in many cases are actually still too low. And I'd like to see those come up to where maybe they should be. Just crazy to me to see some of the modern brands where there's just seems to be a lot more prevalent of them to be bringing those sort of prices. I'm not saying like, the hobby's terrible or that, it's just like Jeremy said, I think he was surprised. He mentioned the word surprise. And I'll say I was definitely surprised at some of these second year rookie cards are always going to be the big thing. And that's the way it should be. But, I love Jeremy mentioning that some of these And hockey saw that, but on the baseball, football level, we really didn't. Like, you get a second year of somebody out of a pack, and he just kind of gets sort of tossed to the side, especially on the vintage, the older school level.
Well, I solved the problem.
John, sorry, John. I just want to one thing, John. In baseball, you get it very strongly for the first single player, the first Nolan Ryan, the first Pete Rose. Yeah. That to me is a really awesome focus for somebody. I'm very intrigued by it. I have Pete Rose's second year card. I think it's his nicest card. It has that little all-star or that little gold trophy they put on them.
Yeah, the gold.
The first single Nolan Ryan card, which was the subject of Project 2020. Another awesome second year cards in vintage. I think are still undervalued.
Yes. 100%. And here, John, I mean, I rectified the situation for you completely and made a LeVar Arrington with a first and second year card together. So there you go. You got his rookie cut out with his second year rookie card. There you go. You got a first and second. And
well, listen, your phone's ringing. Tops is calling you.
Yeah. And Upper Deck. Two of them.
The other thing about second year cards or non-rookie year cards is that let's not forget, because I hear people saying, I don't understand this second year card thing. Well, there's so many player collectors out there. Player collectors want the rookie, but they want all the nice cards of those players too. So I think you're going to continue, especially with the very popular cards, and especially if a phenomenon like the PSA set registry grows beyond PSA set registry to the point where like people are competing for player collections. I think you're going to see that over time. Mm-hmm. You're going to see more of these rare parallels for, non-rookie year rare parallels of superstars become valuable. There was a comment in the Ham Bergeron says, he goes, yeah, but honestly, Wagner and Mantle aren't going to tank from overproduction. Luka and Zion might. And yeah, they're base rookies that are, the commodity card might, but they're rare parallels.
Yeah.
I believe there's potential for that in the future.
Yep.
And we saw those second year cards rise of the modern cards, guys, when their rookie cards went to exponential levels. And so what happened was someone said, hey, I can't afford, that LeBron James.
And I don't want a Chronicles rookie. I'd rather have a second year Prism.
I'll get the second year, and it's the next best thing for right now until, I win the Mega Millions. And so, I think that's what we saw.
John, I want to shout you out for your full out Ranger gear today. I just really appreciated that. We do have hockey season. Hockey season is now starting.
We're almost there, and I'm going to wear it now before I have to put it away.
We got to fix this. There.
Although I'm feeling good.
Hang this up here for the rest of the show. Then we got to fix this.
So, Drew, there's another comment. I think it's a great comment. It's a long one. Yakov Strauss makes a comment, and to me, what he really says, the nugget in here is where he says, we need product that appeals to collectors at all price points, and I think he couldn't be more correct about that, because that's what's going to support the health of the hobby.
Yeah.
We can't just have funds and fractional ownership companies battling it out for all the big cards. If there's no one to buy, like we say, a rising tide lifts all boats. That's great. But if there's no one if there's no one in the other boats, then there's no boats, right? We need there to be more boats on that ocean for them to rise up too. And I think Yakov's point is very astute that's what we need. And that's where the whole Tim Duncan thing, that Tim Duncan and the hobby connectors impact, if they are doing what I think they might be doing, and I hope they are, and I'll support it. I think that's going to be how we get more ships on the ocean.
Yeah, it's a great point. We've seen the high end stuff just break records this year, and that's good. I'm not complaining about it. It's good. It set the tone. But Jeremy hit it right on the head. We need that to be across all the levels for this hobby, to sustain where the point it's at.
And a lot of that. Oh, no, sorry, John.
I was just gonna say, look, the hobby had arguably its best year during a worldwide pandemic. Why was that? Because of the strength and it built up pre-pandemic, and it survived that, and not only survived that, we're talking like it hung on for dear life. It thrived, especially on that high end level. But here's the thing, and I think Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong. I think the high end level survived because the people who buy those $1.2 million cards are sort of pandemic proof. They they've got quite a nest egg, if you will, of cash to play with, and so for long term, like that's always going to be probably okay as long as those millionaires are still in the hobby. It's those other levels for the non-millionaires, if you will, that we and that's really the hobby, as much as we like to report on all those record-breaking auction house sales. It's everything else too that is important.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say. Is it ultimately, in terms of having something good at all price points, that's going to come down to the card companies taking some of these insane profits that that they are making and putting more effort into the entry-level products, putting the value that's there that makes people believe that value is there. Because if you look at a lot of the entry-level products nowadays, even the people that are new into collecting just don't see any value in it, and the price point's too high for them. So it's going to be up to the companies, I think, to an extent, to really take a look and figure out exactly how they want to do this to provide that perceived value to all areas of the hobby.
Great segue into another topic of 2020, which is as the card hobbyist says, the retail mess that we've experienced, and where do the card companies go forward? He says that the retail mess is something that the card companies will need to address moving forward. And I'm not in that. I don't play the retail game, so I don't really, doesn't affect me. But how do they, we talk about fixing the retail mess. To me, that means allowing there to be more product available at retail, because if there's enough product, the hoarders won't go in and grab it all, because it's like that. We saw that what happens with that in project at the Project 2020 level. It would be the same kind of effects would be at play there. So what's the solution? Because if they solve the retail mess by stocking up the retail stores with more product, well, that goes against what everybody wants, which is overproduction or more production, right? So it's like it's a very, very fine balance that these card companies play. And I know there's, maybe it's just putting restrictions on the retailers to allow a maximum, quantity per purchase or something as simple as that. Are they going to put is Walmart Target going to put resources into security on a very small segment of their revenue? I can't see it. Maybe they'll put them in cabinets and you got to call someone to open the key. But how do they solve this retail mess going forward?
It's funny you mentioned this. I'm actually doing a Hobby Quick Hits show on this topic, the retail and solutions. One thing, Jeremy hit it right head. You don't want them to make more. That's going to, we all hear the phrase junk wax era 2.0. No one wants that. Some people argue we're in it already. I don't believe that to be the case.
It's not remotely the case.
I think what you're gonna see, and I'll talk about it obviously on that show. I think you're gonna see more what you saw more of this year. I think it's gonna go more that way. We saw Topps do more of it than Panini, but maybe Panini says, "Hey, we need to take a page out of Topps book." I think you're gonna see more direct to consumer. Hey, here's this product release. Retail. I think you may see Walmarts and Targets sort of phased out. Many of them are phasing themselves out, not carrying products. So I think you're going to see Topps, Panini say, okay, here's this release of Panini Illusions, direct to consumer, and limit. Like you can't just buy 20 boxes and then go flip them. Hey, you're going to get two. You're going to get two, and you're going to get two, and you're going to get two. And, at levels where flipping, flippers do better when they buy a whole display case of 20 blaster boxes, right? So maybe Panini says, hey, we're going to still sell it all, but we're only going to sell two to you. And hey, you didn't get one, you're used to not getting them because that guy bought the whole display. You're getting two. And so that's, to me, that's where I see it going.
We have to be realistic and practical in all of these desires we have, and what couple comments. I'm just Chris Brown says I think he's saying to me, if you go overboard with the retail product, we're gonna have another junk era on our hands. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was saying about that, Chris Brown. And then 1 Million Cubs project says retail isn't broken. Card companies are making money. Retail's making money. They are the drivers. No problem to solve. I mean, I kind of agree with that. Like,
yes,
everybody's making money. Panini is playing this balance between overproduction, underproduction, retail. And then Chris Brown says at the bottom, he says what they need to do is crack down on these stalkers who go after the suppliers from store to store. The hobby doesn't need that. I don't know if that's solvable.
What do you do? Like, I'm not saying he's wrong. What do you do? Like, you hire snipers and take them out as they're walking?
And that's also not the card companies. That's not the card company. Those cards have been distributed to the distributors. So
Walmart,
that has nothing to do with Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Leaf. It doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with that company.
Here's another thing. You know, I walked into Walmart a couple weeks ago, and in one of the Walmarts, the distributor comes on Fridays. Right. And everyone and their mother knows that. And I didn't go there for the cards. I went there I needed to get stuff to make dinner. Friday's my dinner making day here. We all take turns. And so I went to Walmart to buy some ingredients, and there's 10 dudes waiting for that distributor to walk in, right? And I kind of chuckled and just went to the produce section. And what I'd love to see the distributors do, and I don't think they care enough, but change up when your guy comes to different stores. Keep everyone on their toes. Instead of coming Friday like clockwork, change it up. Wednesday, Thursday.
That's not going to happen, guys. Not going to happen. These guys have their routines. They have their schedules. That's a pipe dream. I don't see that happening. I don't see there being somebody at the retail retail environment doling out 2-packs per person. Nope. I remember back in the early 90s at Costco, people were lining up at Costco. Lining up for retail product has been going on for 30 years.
Yes.
It's not a new. It's just
new to cards. It's just new to cards. It's been no different than GameStop. You've seen lines out of GameStop for years. You've seen things like that. And I always just harken back that this is a Walmart and Target problem, and not in a million years is anyone coming up into that boardroom and saying, let's start allocating resources on minimizing the amount of cards that we can get while we wipe out a shelf in 5 minutes. It's not going to happen in a boardroom.
Not going to happen. Like J-Rod's comment, put retail behind the counter and limit one to customer. There's no way. There's no way that retail companies are gonna put resources into controlling that. While the hobby thing makes sense, logistically speaking,
right.
It's just not a good idea.
Right.
It's a great concept. We'd love it.
Yeah.
But practically speaking, it's just not a good idea.
Yeah, I would love it if that was already in place, and as soon as we were done, I could pick Jude up and I could go pick up some Prism football, basketball, Mosaic, and go home and rip it. That'd be great. But those plans weren't put in place, and that I don't see that changing anytime soon. Although there is an ideal way of doing it. And, John and myself will actually be talking with Chris Carlin from Upper Deck here in a couple of weeks, and he'll be, talking about the retail aspect side of things soon. So, and they are doing certain things that'll be doing changes in the future, but it won't be at a Walmart and Target level. It'll be at alternate places, such as LCSs and places like that. So the card companies are seeing it, and they are trying to alter what they can do. But the Walmart and Target stuff, guys, it's unfortunately it became a very hot topic of 2020, especially once the pandemic hit and everyone could stalk those distributors all day long. Yeah.
So sorry, I got to address J-Rod's follow-up comment where he says they have someone monitoring and selling cigarettes from behind the counter. It's a regulated product.
Yeah.
If they want to sell cigarettes, there's no option. But then cigarettes are a bigger market than sports cards. So I hear you, J-Rod. But you're talking apples and oranges there.
Yeah. Now regulation in this industry. Regulation in this industry. Now that is something I could talk for hours on. And yes, I would give me a mega hoops and a pack of smokes, James. I'm right there with you, buddy. That's a wonderful comment. And on that note, guys, I know myself, I've got to bounce out. I have to go pick the little one up because I'm spending the day with him before I head down to Florida for the weekend. So John and Jeremy are going to, if y'all would like to continue the show, be my guest. But I'm going to have to bounce out. So I do want to say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody, and I'll see you guys in 2021. But y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Drew.
Yep. Have peace.
John, I J-Rod's comment. Give me a Mega Hoops and a pack of smokes. Like that should be on a T-shirt. That's classic.
Yeah, I'll take a menthol and a chromium pack. So, but no, but I don't know. Here's my thing, and I don't know what you think of this, Jeremy, too. I know the flippers, and some people don't like them. Some people say, like myself, hey, it's free enterprise, it's the American way, and all that jazz. But I think of, if we want new people to come in the hobby, right? How do most people start collecting, right? Myself, I know it's a long time ago, but opening packs of cards, right? That's how we kind of get to start. I guess my fear is for the long-term viability of the hobby is if a young person, we can even take age out of it. If a person wants to come in to the hobby and start and open packs, it's not impossible. I don't make it impossible, but it's become increasingly difficult for someone to find those packs to start opening. Even on the LCS levels, I talked to some of these LCS owners, and they're struggling to get wax at acceptable levels. And even when they get a distributor account, they're not even allowed to buy a lot of the products that are very popular and hot. And so I think it is an issue. I'm not saying it's broke. 1 million says it's not broke. I'm not saying it's broke, but it can be improved upon, right? We can improve things that are not broke, right? I think I'm a good dad, but I can always be a better dad, right? And so I think we should think about it. If these companies, Panini, Topps, Upper Deck, Leaf, whoever else you want to throw in there, that's great. The hobby's doing great now, but the long-term survivability is we have to have other folks coming in for other reasons other than I'm going to buy this blaster that I just happened to get for 20 and sell it for 100.
So I have a bit of a counterpoint, John, to the
go ahead.
Comment about opening packs being it's certainly how you and I got into it. I mean, we're the same. You and I are born in the same year, so it's definitely something that we understand. And as you were talking, I was thinking about it, and now I see 1 Million Cubs project. He's thinking the same thing I was thinking, because John, nowadays every kid has a smartphone in their pocket, in their hand, and accessing cards and accessing hobby information, it's completely different than it was when you and I were kids.
Yeah.
Opening packs is one way to get into the hobby, but I don't think it was almost the only way up until the 90s, let's say. But now there's so many other ways to access the hobby, to get cards. You don't need to open packs to get them. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be doing that. I'm just saying there are other ways to do it. And it ties into what 1 Million Cubs project says there about, there's this thing called the internet and you can get your fix in 2 days. Exactly. So, he prefaces it with saying he doesn't understand the frustration between not getting cards at Walmart or Target. And I'm kind of in that.
Well, you can get you can get anything in 2 days. You can probably get some components to build a nuclear weapon in 2 days, but at a price, right? At a price. So, you're probably not always getting that $20 blaster that you would have under normal circumstances in 2 days. Now you're paying $45, $55. If you want it and you got the means, sure, you can get it, right? But I'd like to see the ability for someone to get it at that SRP level as well. And not just me. I'm just talking in general. And so
the whole retail concept is sort of outside of my comfort zone because, again, I'm also in Canada. I collect hockey mostly, and the retail products have always been a lower level product than the hobby product. It's like, fewer hits, the same cards aren't available. You're not going to get this or that in it. You get better cards in hobby products. So the fact that retail has blown up on the basketball, football side of things, it's kind of a new thing for me to get used to, although I'm getting used to it quickly because I hear people talking about it all the time and really complaining about the access. So, but that's kind of a question I have, I guess, is retail product is it as good as, better, or worse than the complement? I guess the hobby product of the same brand.
Yeah. Traditionally, Jeremy, it's been always worse. I think what we saw in 2020, the companies did a better job at putting stuff in at retail. I think anyone hearing this, honestly, who's followed the hobby can say 2020 retail has been the best retail level of the hobby. You see people, hey, I bought the last blaster, or they're posting on social media. I bought the last blaster. Look at this hit, and it's a Trout auto. I saw a Hank Aaron auto. So retail this year has made strides to make up that difference between the hobby level. Now, traditionally, you're right. It hasn't been. It's sort of been the redheaded little stepbrother, like, oh, I couldn't get hobby, so I got this box, and I'm probably not going to pull much, but I wanted to rip something.
So 2 great comments, John. Could you bring up Rex Scotcher's first one, and then Jacob?
I don't have admin access because Drew left.
So I'll just read it. Like Rex Scotcher says, hit odds are lower at retail, but still high enough to drive demand. A bigger spread, and this is the strategy. Maybe a bigger spread between retail and hobby products might help solve the retail availability issues. And you got to think that through, but that might be a great solution. Oh, there you go, John. There you go. That might be a great solution to reducing the stress on retail and driving more people to the hobby shops. Maybe. And hobby shops are very important for the hobby, as people like to say. So, and then Yakov puts on another comment there right below it. Good day, Brad. I'll just quickly, this one here. See, this is the counterpoint. Sometimes you get an itch and you don't want to wait 2 days to scratch that itch, and ripping wax is how you do that. Now it's harder. Yeah, good. Yeah, good point too, right? This is a very, very delicate balancing act, and it'll never make everybody happy.
I think Brad let himself in. Are you controlling the boards?
Yeah, I actually have the ability to do it.
All right. Well, thank you anyway, and welcome. You gotta he's stuck in the back. That's what happens when you leave the back door unlocked. So lock your back doors, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Merry day after Christmas, Brad. Happy New Year. Welcome aboard. Yes. We're talking. You're probably following along. We're talking about wax, and like Jeremy just said, it's you ask 10 people about wax, you probably get 6 different solutions or answers or theories. Mine is different than some, and maybe I'm a little biased because, like Jeremy alluded to, and we're both born the same year and got into hobby pretty much in the same fashion as buying packs. I'm sort of like old school, and I like to think people still enter the hobby in that fashion. I'm sure they do. And so when I see those Walmart shelves cleaned out, and I feel bad. Maybe a kid that wanted to buy a baseball, football, basketball, hockey pack, they're not going to be able to do it. And every time I'm in that section and I do see kids run into the aisle, I always get a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I always see them. They run right over to the the Yu-Gi-Oh, the Pokemon, and I even saw I told a story on my show earlier this year. In spring, a couple of kids, they had baseball uniforms on. They just come from their baseball game, 7, 8, 9 years old. They came into the card aisle, right? And I saw them coming in. I'm like, oh, they're gonna be disappointed because there's no baseball cards here. But they literally ran right to like the Pokemon non-sport. Here they are, little baseball players, and I sort of like, oh man, that was me with my looking for baseball cards, and yet they could care less that there were none on the shelf. And so I don't know, maybe I could be wrong. Not the first time. I'm married 21 years, so I'm told I'm wrong sometimes here and there. But I like to see, I'm not saying it's even broke, but I think we can make things better even when they're not broke.
Well, I'd just like to say I appreciate Michael Ham's comment here about why people go to retail, because I'm not a retail customer, so my perspectives and opinions and thoughts and whatever I say is kind of based on somebody who's never really been a retail guy. I'd rather just not buy I don't get the itch. I don't have the itch to break wax. It's just not something that's in me. So I don't really I can't really identify.
And I break
comment.
I break 80% less wax than I used to too, Jeremy. Like I get it. Wax, I hate to say it, we're talking about it. Wax in general is a losing proposition. It's the funnest thing to do in the hobby, I believe, but it's also we're going to take a little bit hit in the wallet and the ROI at the end of it when all the smoke settles and the dust clears. But it's fun in the process, But I don't know. We're going to see some new stuff. I can tell you that for sure. I think, the 1999 blaster days are probably going to be slowly phased out. We're going to see blaster prices increase. And what we've seen this year, the comment that the one gentleman made that, people go to the retail level to get some of those decent stuff at a fraction of the cost is right. And then what we saw this year was that retail stuff had a lot better stuff in it at a fraction of the price. So it drove up that demand. That's why we see 10 people about to mug the distributor the minute he walks in the door.
Yeah,
and,
Yeah, I think the first thing you're going to see is retail increase in price. We already saw it with Bowman.
Brad, your audio is really quiet.
Ooh,
I barely hear you.
How about now? Is that better?
Maybe a little bit. Maybe just talk louder.
Okay.
So
I think that what you're going to see is more and more wax prices increase higher and higher and higher, and I think that's going to be the deterrent. You can see it right now with Bowman Platinum still on the shelves in some places, where that price you're gonna have that curve where it's gonna just meet at some point, and that's gonna be the factor is what are you willing to pay. And I buy retail, and the only reason why I buy retail is because I can't afford the $200 to $300 to $400 to $500 hobby boxes or even jumbo boxes. I can't afford that right now. Maybe later on down the road, but that's why I go to retail.
And that's what you're going to see. You're going to see Prism. I mean, Panini's going to raise the price of Prism blasters. They see what this stuff's doing on a second, But what is that price point? What is the price point for a Prism blaster where someone's not going to buy that whole display rack? Is it $60 a blaster? Is it $40? Is it $80? Or, or maybe
John,
none of those?
And you know what? I think. This episode, I think our intention is to kind of recap 2020, look into 2021, and we're going to get sidetracked for sure because we're so passionate about these things. But I mean, I think that's what will be interesting to see. We can speculate all we want. What happens in 2021 will be very telling. Because it'll be just the reality of the situation. Let's see what the card company, what Panini does, if anything, to respond to this retail issue. 2020 kind of got out of control. 2021, we'll see if they're able to rein it in and control it a little bit more. But I mean, that to me, that's definitely a takeaway from the hobby in 2020 was this whole retail, the whole retail thing. Unless you guys want to we can definitely keep talking about it. But I think we're
sort of beating a dead horse, and I mean, we all have sort of our own kind of takes on it. But like you said, it's ultimately going to be, what the companies decide to do and how they decide to combat or not combat it.
James was on in the background. I thought I'd just bring him on real quick to.
Thanks. I'm back. Okay. So I'm not.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. I disagree. Here's the one phenomenon that still blows me away. And listen, I'm a student of economics. I get supply and demand, but to this day, it still blows me away. Pre-order prices. Okay. And the perfect example I have is Topps Chrome Formula One. Comes out next month. And because I'm a Topps Now fan and Formula One fan, I pre-ordered a month ago. I pre-ordered from David Adams at $139. It's now up to, last time I checked, $250 in the span of a month. At what point, and I know what Jeremy's answer will be, but at what point do we as a consumer say that's ridiculous, right? Like the price of a hobby box jumping $110, $20 in the span of a month, 2 months before it's released.
Well, let me jump in before Jeremy. Be careful that your $90 order doesn't get canceled and
Yeah,
it
that's the
split,
problem.
because that's already happened before to Herman, where he bought it at the month previous price, and then they canceled his order and said, "Whoops!" And and then he had to buy at the higher price, and then subsequently the opposite happened. When he bought it at that price, the price dropped, and they wouldn't do it the other way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
ahead,
would
Jamie.
hope someone big like David Adams or even Blowout wouldn't pull a stunt like that.
No, they did
Right?
it. I'm not going to
Oh,
mention which
really?
one, but one of the big ones did it.
Really
Yeah.
interesting.
And not to, I don't want to cut Jeremy. I'll make my brief point. I'm a guy, when I did open a lot of wax, more than I do currently, I pre-ordered most of it. It was like, it's perfect. James alluded to it. To lock into a product early, get it at a lower price level. But now you're seeing companies, and more than one, it's not even one, that cancel the pre-order on you and refund your money. And because they want to get more money out of it. They're a business too. I think it's dirty tactics. Frankly, you've already locked in and paid. They always send you the email, our allotment was a lot less than we anticipated. Unfortunately, it's all professionally worded, but it still don't make it right. It still don't make you not get what you paid for when you paid early. And they had your money all the time. They should almost give you more and give you some interest on holding your money on the pre-order time. And I don't think that should be happen. It does. It's going to probably continue. And so I always use pre-order as a way to get in on that ground level hobby price. And now you can't even with confidence think that's going to happen anymore. And that's off the board too. And so that's where maybe the problem's more, not even so much the retail, but with the distributors or the wax sellers not honoring pre-orders.
Yeah.
Yep.
No. Jeremy, you had a comment?
No, I don't. I'm sorry. I've got nothing.
Well,
to
sorry,
add.
Jeremy. I thought you were going to say
You
something
rendered him
about-
speechless. Wow.
I thought, usually when I bring this up with you, we talk about monopoly, right? Like what's the alternative? There is none, right? And I look at, again, the Topps Chrome F1. That's the perfect example. Like, there's no other product out there, right? And they're gonna sell for whatever they can sell it for.
Well, you do have a choice. The choice is not to do it.
Not to buy it. That's right.
You do have a choice.
Yeah.
And listen, I want to be fully transparent. Like, I don't open as much wax, but I got a whole shelf over there full of all sorts of wax that I'll resell and at significant amounts more than I initially paid for. To me, that's been a huge part of 2020, whether it's been for me, the Montgomery 582 Club online exclusive products, when I've gotten them, to in turn open kind of what I want and then sell when I'm sort of done opening what I want. And, some people look at that as negative. I pay sales tax on all my sales. And so I'm doing everything above board. And as far as that goes, if you want to, hate me because I sell cards sometimes, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. You want to hate me because I'm a Ranger fan? Pick your poison, right? So, there's a lot of that. I don't want to go down that alley. There's a lot of angst in the hobby towards specific factions of people doing things and whatnot. The only faction that I have any angst towards, quite frankly, is quality control stuff and illegal stuff. People trimming, people taking your money and not sending your card and ripping you off. That I don't have any room for in my hobby life. But all the other stuff, if you're doing everything above board, then it is what it is.
Say it, John.
So,
hobby how you want a hobby your way.
The other one. Come on, man.
You do you, boo.
You do you.
That's your line. I don't even feel good when I say it.
So here was another prevalent thing that happened, unfortunately, in 2020, and it came back to pre-orders and Project 2020. Coming back to the original topic of the show, people selling at pre-order prices, the price of those cards increasing before they even are in hand, and people and sellers canceling orders, right? Because they were leaving money on the table. Has eBay done anything with that? Not really, right? But then you look at things like, I know, Jeremy, I was just finishing watching Star Stock. I think it was either with you or the guys out west, Mojo Breaks, but they are preventing people from canceling orders, right? They've built that into their own buy and sell platform.
Yeah, it's instant. It's instant change of ownership at Star Stock. Yeah.
There's no going back, right?
Yeah.
Well, in eBay's now.
I mean, let's not. I hope we don't have to get into a whole eBay policy discussion right now. It's just been beat
All right,
to
then we
death,
won't go
but-
there.
Yeah, don't go there because I'll
I
talk
hope-
for like 20 minutes. So
I
let's
hope we
not
don't
do
have to, can I? But there is a comment. J Rod says, "Can we discuss how insane the National is going to be this year?" And to me, let's go there. That's fun. That's
Let's have
exciting.
fun.
That's positive. That's what we all want to do. I don't know who won. James, why don't you speak to that? Yeah, there you go.
Vaccination. Well, you and I can't get across the border. Come on.
I
man.
know.
Like-
I was saying last night to my wife, I hope to heck that our borders are opened up by the National so I can get down there, because that if there's one National I don't want to miss, it's 2021.
Well,
I
come
hope
on,
they
even-
push it back a month if they have to also.
you and I missed two sports card expos, right? Like,
And a National.
And a national. Well, I've never been to a national. I'd like to go one day, but
You'll be there.
you
You'll
know,
go.
I hope so. But even sports card expo. I'm a baseball guy. Expo is mostly hockey. I still loved going, right? I still loved wandering around, looking at everything, and yeah, I missed it this year.
What do you guys think up above there?
Well, the National, I said this on the show recently. The National, the 2021 National, assuming all goes well, and I hope you guys obviously get to attend as well. I'd love to meet you guys in person. If that happens, and I hope that's the case, it's going to be this is just, water's wet. It's going to be the hugest event they've ever had. I hope they anticipate that and do what all the logistics stuff they need to do. But I think it's just going to be, they're going to break attendance records, and it's just going to be one big party. I think people are going to be cabin fever from not having the National Atlantic City. We saw the show in Dallas. Brad, you were there. How that became like the de facto National for not having the National. And so when we actually have the real National, I think people are going to make up for lost time. I think there's going to be a lot of transactions, a lot of people, a lot of we've seen everything boom in this year of no National. We've seen more content creation, so you're gonna have more people there on that level. You see more people in the hobby. You're gonna see more celebrities there. We saw that in 2019 in Chicago. We're gonna see even more. Whatever there is in the hobby, we're gonna see more of it take place in 2021 in the National, assuming it's going to take place.
Very quick comment. It's called the National Sports Card Convention. It's going to be it's going to be more of a convention than it's ever been. It's going to be more convention than card show. That's all I wanted to say.
So 2 questions. Do you think it will sell out? And secondly, do you think it will ever get as big as the San Diego Comic-Con?
No.
Yeah.
Well, ever's a big word, James.
Yeah.
Maybe. If we go mainstream, it could be bigger. Sports, let's face it, sports, I believe, are probably bigger than comic books and superheroes in the United States. I think they are.
Comic-Con also evolved too, right? It became more of a comic book convention and became more of an entertainment
cultural thing too.
Cultural thing. That's right. Pop culture. Yeah. Do you think Chicago will sell out?
I think it has to.
I have a theory on this, and it's I've been thinking about this over the past couple of days because I'm 50-50 still if I'm going to go. What I'm hoping doesn't happen is January, February, March, nothing happens. You don't see anything happen whatsoever. And then as we get closer and closer, there's a bum rush for flights, hotels, for spots, for spaces, and it's going to be a mad dash to grab.
That's a great point, and that is going to happen. That is going to happen, Brad. That's just a fact. That happens. That happens in non-pandemic years. That happens.
So it's going to be horrible this year.
Here's my advice I'm not a travel agent, but honestly, if you're going to book your stuff, whenever you book your stuff, and I'm a guy that usually doesn't, but this has kind of changed the game. Get the insurances, right?
Or you're sleeping you're sleeping in your car rental if you I guarantee you there's going to be people sleeping in their cars at the National this year for sure.
If that's you,
there'll be a lot of people doing that.
The hotel rooms sell out every year in the vicinity. So this is just going to be, really exacerbated this year.
And piggybacking off what Jeremy said, if you are the person sleeping in your car, okay, please bring some cologne and use it.
RV
body spray, Axe.
RV and Walmart parking lot. That's the key right there.
Yeah.
Hey man, don't talk about my kinfolk like that.
Hey, that's smart. Okay, let me tell you, you can get a lot of people in an RV. All right, guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks for jumping on again.
Thanks.
Yeah, and listen, the National is going to be just one big party. I think people are going to be excited to get, for some like myself, I'm seeing people going to shows and posting, hey, I'm on the way to show. You're having them in Texas. They're going on the way in Florida. Here in New York, we have no shows. And so that National, as crazy it might sound, in late July, August, might be the first show I attend in whatever long it's been now. March, almost 2 years or 2 years. And
you're going to want to be there. This is going to be a show that if you're in the hobby, if you're a content creator, if you're a collector, wherever you are, you're going to want to be at this. This is going to be the show that we're going to be talking about for years.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be, you said it. You said, I think it's going to be even past that. The National is always the National, but I think the 2021 is going to be something like Jeremy just said, going to be what they talk about. Being we missed one, and people itching to get back on the horse. And you got a lot more people in the hobby as collectors, as sellers, as content creators, and they're all gonna, like you said, it's not even, it's just a convention of all those genres and niches. And I don't know, but they might have to get another building. Or I don't know what they're going to do,
and the beautiful thing is that the hobby is going to continue to, on its trajectory for the next little while, especially with basketball ramped up. Hockey starts. It's like hockey is now officially starting January the 13th. That's going to be good. I know it's like the 6th most popular sport. We seem to have lost track to a few other things, but hockey is going to be, it's going to be up and running, and along with basketball, boy, oh boy, I think we're in for with the vaccine news. I don't want to make this a medical show, but if the vaccine news continues to be positive, we're more and more likely to have the National. That kind of plays into it, Maybe certainly the National, Jeremy and Brad, maybe the National says, listen, we're going to have it, but we really want everyone to wear masks. I'll wear a mask, right? I got an ugly face anyway, so it'll cover most of it up. I might be half good looking with half a mask on. So, I agree. It will be masks for sure. And you know what? A lot of people will just wear them because they want to.
Anyway.
Yeah. When you see in Dallas, last bigger show in Dallas, when Steve Aoki's there, and I didn't realize this, but when I walked by and Steve Aoki was there just breaking cards, there was probably 25 people around him, just like in this. If that's in Dallas at a 400 table show,
we saw that. We saw that in 2019 with Gary Vee set up as a dealer.
Mm-hmm.
His table always had, the conversations I was fortunate to have with him was because I was in there early with a media pass. And so I got to go up to him and talk to him. But once that show started, you had to wait, and I got to give him credit. He was very sociable and very down to earth.
It's going to be an absolute zoo. The National is going to be a zoo like we've never seen before. and the celebrities are going to be out. Hopefully there's athletes. That's why I was saying earlier, we don't know what's going to happen between now and July in the hobby, to the point where we're just guessing how big it's going to be. It could be, if it happens, which fingers crossed it does, it could be bigger than we're even imagining. And then what happens? Then it just comes down to capacity. How many people, once it maxes out, it maxes out.
Yeah. And it's a great point, and kind of piggybacking off that, if you're planning on attending, do all your stuff as early as you can. Get the insurance. Let's hope we don't need it, but for the little amount it costs, in case it does not take place, you don't lose a fortune or a small fortune.
This Bo's comment on the screen right now, it's not a guarantee it'll happen. And it's, especially if Illinois does have those very strict regulations. But that's why I think that of course, the vaccine is critical in all this. Also, the ability of the organizers to push the date back to where the vaccine has been rolled out to a high enough percentage of the population that the regulators will deem it to be safe enough to proceed.
Okay, well then let me throw this out there. Is it possible they'll go to a more friendly location if Chicago decides?
That's tough.
No,
I don't see it. The only thing I could see them do, Brad, and I don't even think this is going to happen, but I'm just throwing it out there, is kind of what they did in 2019, kind of change the date later, hoping that time would allow the event to happen. Could they do that in Chicago? In other words, it's the last week of July, front part of August. If things aren't progressing like they hope or plan, can they say, hey, we're going to do it in late October, early November, or what they tried to do this year, the week before Christmas?
Even changing the date will be difficult. Moving to another location next to impossible. And that I've had discussions with not the organizers, but people who have had discussions with the organizers. So I guess it's partially hearsay, but my understanding is that the event needs to be planned 2 years out. It's not something that they can right now say, okay, we're going to move it to Florida, to Orlando, or another state. Apparently the logistics just do not allow. Sure, they could in 2024, but not in 2021. It's just too soon to do that due to some very significant logistical issues.
Yeah, you've got food vendors, you've got security, you've got
hotels,
booking.
Don't forget TriStar. They're that autograph pavilion. They got 40, 50 celebrities, athletes, and even actors and actresses that they bring in for them. That'll be interesting to see too, guys. Is TriStar's usual
Houston Stokes?
Yes, Are their guest list of celebrity signers and athlete signers going to be a little less, because maybe some of those athletes say, you know what, I don't want to chance this and come out in public.
A lot of these guys, and John, you're right, because a lot of these signers are older too in age, right? A lot of these guys are older. So that's one. The other, but the nice thing is that even if their signing roster is 25% of what it usually is, it's not going to change the vibe of the show, except maybe that TriStar area can be repurposed into just gathering areas and people hanging out, because there's been enough upswing in the cards that autographs are going to be they can take a bit of a dip and still fill up the room.
No, I don't think it'll have any effect on the attendance of the show. I'm just thinking out loud. It'd be interesting to see if their usual lineup is a little bit lighter because of what's going on. I think it will be, John. It definitely will be. Too many older athletes who, but then again, a lot of these guys, this is their annual income stream as well. So many of them make more doing this than they do during their playing days.
That's true. That's true. You also get, aside. I was just thinking while you're saying that, Jeremy, the TTM market. What do athletes do to supplement now? Is the TTM market, or do they do their own private shows, or do they go and they were going to make a public appearance? Does that become then a private appearance where they're off in a back area and you can go and you can give them your item, but you don't get to see the athlete, or you don't get to see. Yeah, that's kind of shit. Or
where is the lineup going to go, Brad? Where's the That's the thing. It's the lineups. You can't have people lined up like sardines. It's like airports. It's like airports in India where people are literally nose to head. Like they're people. That's what it's like at the in the TriStar area. You're not going to. They're going to have to control the flow. Is going to have to slow right down.
Hey, Jeremy, what about this? I'm sure it's not ideal. It's not what they want. If you're paying for an autograph, it's not what you want. But what if TriStar says, the athletes will be here, but we're not going to have any lines. You're not going to, unfortunately, not going to be able to. Everything's going to get your certification, but you're going to pay for your ball, your flat, your hockey puck, your stick, your jersey, and you pick it up at our kiosk later on. They may just eliminate the lines altogether. You'll get your item. Unfortunately, you won't see the celebrity or the athlete you're wanting the autograph of, but you'll get your item signed. Come pick it up between this hours. Show your receipt, and it's legit. You'll get your COA. But for because of COVID, we have to eliminate the lines and eliminate that potential contact and spread.
Well, what you can do is
it sucks, but they might do that.
In terms of changing locations, Michael Hamm makes an interesting comment. The largest fishing show switched locations in 3 months, and the comments I was making earlier were based on stuff that I had heard about a year or two ago, maybe, just about how they can't just have it in a new city. It's very difficult to find a location that will host this show, and I don't remember the reasons. But all that said, we're in new times now, and maybe the board of directors of the National need to start thinking outside their regular box, being a little bit more aggressive with things, and maybe throwing some clout around in terms of, hey, we're going to bring all this money into your community, not just your convention center, and maybe find a way to do it such that they can change the location. I mean, never say never, right? And with some creativity, maybe they can do it. And I thank Michael Hamm for really, making that comment, because I think it gives us some hope.
And I think if there is going to be an alternate location, I think it's going to be your way, Brad. I think it's going to be down in the DFW area with all the stuff that's already there. Your ability to do shows right now during this time. I think and who knows, guys? Maybe those, we're not behind those closed doors. Maybe those gears are already turning, and we just don't know about them at this point.
Yeah, because I have a couple of times asked Dr. Beckett about them coming back to Dallas, and he said it's just not big enough. With the area is just the Kay Bailey's just not big enough. Well, if you have to do something, then maybe, or it could be they're talking to Kyle, who has been able to do something like that, and maybe going to Houston. I don't know, but it's anything could happen. Anything could happen.
I have Dr. Beckett on my show tonight, Sports Cards Live, for anyone out there watching who hasn't heard of it yet. He's actually my guest this evening, and so I just added to my list of topics with Jim tonight. 2021 National. He knows the board of directors of the National. I'm sure he's friends with these guys. I'm going to talk to him tonight about what he thinks in terms of the ability to move location. He may have the insight that I'm kind of grabbing at here in terms of why it's so difficult to change it. If he has these insights, well, I'll get them out of him. We'll ask him to discuss those tonight on my channel.
Did you get him to agree to do the entire format, or is it going to be a 30-minute?
So what he said to me, what we're doing, what Jim and I are doing is we're splitting it out into 2 episodes. We're doing part 1 tonight, and we're doing part 2. He's coming back on with me 2 weeks today. So we're going to do about an hour tonight. I'm going to try and stretch him to an hour 15. Jim, if you're listening, pretend you didn't hear that. And I'm going to try and do the same thing on January the 9th, Saturday, January the 9th, just to stretch it out. But I did just add to my agenda to discuss with him tonight, along with a bunch of other really interesting.
Well, good thing he wasn't on this week's Hobby Hotline, because we're up at 1:45, and he would probably be squirming in his seat. So with that being said, guys, and Jeremy and I know you got to go, and I got to go. Brad, thanks for coming in and pinch hitting for Drew.
Quick comment.
Sure.
I just see Chris Harris's comment that just came in where he says just about every large city has a convention center that could host a national. So my understanding is that's just not the case. It might seem that way, but I've been told that there's very few places in the United States that could host the national. I don't know why, but we'll ask Dr. Beckett tonight if he knows why, because that's something that was made very clear to me that no, there aren't a lot of options for this thing. I just don't know why that was said.
Yeah, and Rex
tonight.
Rex makes a comment. He suspects, I'm right because there might be a plan B and C. And here's the thing: I think the reason I said that and I believe that is because of 2019 not happening. I don't know if they want to go. It's bad enough you go 1 year with no national. I don't know if they want to go two. Even if they do one, even if they go to Dallas or Houston, and it's a little smaller, but the event still takes place. Hey, we had a 2021 national. We had to downsize it a little bit, but we got it done. Thanks for everyone who made it happen. I don't think they want to go 2 years without one. So I got a feeling there's some gears turning behind scenes. Obviously plan B and C, you want plan A to be plan A, but I think they're going to have some sort of, fallback plan should plan A not be able to occur.
Well, we have a couple of, Chris Harris maybe unions. He says unions and costs are the reasons why. I mean, he sounds very different. He sounds 100% sure that those are the exact reasons why. I'm curious if he's right. Very well could be. Cardboard Max.
Let's listen. Costs are definite. I mean, I don't think. You can't just write a blank check. I mean, the theory or what's been rumored was that whenever they have it in Atlantic City, they're literally provided the venue for free, which is why they moved it to try to do it the week before December and still have it. Just didn't work out. Costs are all. Show me in a situation where costs are not really.
They're always an issue, but are they prohibitive? And that's what Chris Harris is saying. And maybe he's right. Cardboard Max is saying it's hotel rooms capacity. Another very logical reason why. Curious to understand. I'm going to pose these to Dr. Beckett tonight just to see if he has insights into these. And then Chris Harris says they need 500,000 square feet. Why they never went back to Baltimore. I was at the Baltimore Expo in 2013, or the Baltimore National. I think it was 2013. And boy, oh boy, was it a great venue. I loved it. I thought it was a great place for the show and great surrounding areas to walk around if you're into, checking out restaurants.
If you want to really get that, then do it at Jerry World.
What's that?
Do it if you really want to do it at Jerry World.
Yeah, why not?
Stadium. Do it at a indoor football stadium. Or because they've got the suites, they've got the hotels around it. They could do that. I mean, if you really truly want to think about it, put it in a football stadium. You
got to talk to the owners of those stadiums to make sure, right? It's not so easy to just put it there, but great idea to look into for sure. I think
that and $3 will get everybody a Coke.
Yeah,
or $5 in Canada.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, bottom line, it'd be a shame that see national 2 years in a row not take place. I'm not anticipating that. Here's a question for Jeremy. Right now you can't get into the States. What are you hearing? Like, what are they talking about when that might be lifted? What is it based on? Is it based on vaccine and numbers going down? I mean, how does that all work?
It's a fluid situation, first of all, but I think that I believe it's going to come down to the vaccine, right? Once the vaccine is out, it has really permeated society. I think we'll be good to go, and they'll open up our border. It just the closure just keeps on getting extended every, I don't know. They say it's closed now for 6 more weeks. 6 weeks go by. Okay, we're extending it. They're just going to keep on extending it until it's in the public's best interest to open it up from a safety perspective. I support it. I just wish I could. I just hope it's opened up by the time the national starts.
Yeah. No doubt that. And I hope they take that into consideration as well as best they can. You know what I mean? I don't know if they cancel a whole event because of that, but I like to think they would try to consider that fact that maybe, our friends to the north can't get in and won't be able to attend this show.
I hope they make it a priority for international participation, not just Canada, right? It's going to be
yeah, it's true. That's true.
All right, guys, are we?
Yeah, we almost got our first 2-hour show in the books. We're at 150. So
well, it's the year end. It's the year end special.
Yeah, it is. It's the last show of 2020 that we're doing on Hobby Hotline. So, well, with that being said, thanks everybody for joining us. I hope everyone's Christmas was great. We hope 2021 hobby-wise continues, because it was a great hobby year, and we hope 2021, the real life year, is better than the 2020 health year, and then hopefully we get over some of these obstacles and attend this national. We just spent quite a bit of time talking about and getting to see each other in person and enjoying each other's company. So with that being said, Jeremy, Dr. Beckett tonight, check that out.
Check that out.
That should be great. There'll be some more national talk, it sounds like, as well. And Brad,
definitely going to ask him about his thoughts on the national and the ability to change locations. So I invite everybody to come. We're going live, Dr. Beckett and I, at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. So I invite y'all to the Sports Cards Live YouTube channel. And again, comments and questions are in play, just like here. So please join me and Dr. Beckett tonight.
All right.
And thank you, Brad. Thank you, John. Thank you, Drew, who left us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Confessions of a Texas Card Dude.
I really enjoyed the chat tonight. So or this morning.
I mean, we got a lot of comments, and guys, eventually, feel free to call in future episodes if you're listening to this. If you're listening to this in audio form, which you might right now, this is a live show, 11 a.m. Eastern every Saturday morning. And you're more than welcome to come on the show and bring your topic, and then hear yourself on the audio form. And I've been told chicks dig people who call in the podcast. So there you go.
And with that, good night, everybody.
All right, take care, Jim.
Thank you, everybody.